Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk. I am your host, Asia the Bird. To have a very special guest with me today. She's an illustrator and designer, also known as Gremren. Please welcome Renata Paton. Hello, Renata. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Truly a pleasure, dude.
I want to go ahead and get into the beginning. So, where are you originally from, and how did you get started into the realm of art?
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia, born and bred whole way through. I've always been kind of, creatively adept, you would say, like, primary school, high school, always kind of was the art girl, kind of hanging out in the class. Went to university for communication design, which is like basically graphic design that's been rebranded. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Design there. Mm-hmm. And since I graduated university, it's kind of just been a really natural step-by-step process from kind of not knowing what I wanted to do, but knowing I was creative, right, to knowing like kind of trying out my own stuff and then being like, yep, this feels good. And then just kept that good thing going, basically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really, really cool. Yeah, I also went to art school as well. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design here in America, which is in Georgia. So I majored in illustration. So yeah, so that's thank you. And I also had a minor in fiber. So in my school, we have like, minors where it's like small mini majors, if you will. It pertains to like yarn work, natural dyeing, and different things in pertaining to textiles. So kind of like what you do in a sense, because I know you do like mini punch needle rugs and things like that. So I find that to be really cool that you do as well.
That's awesome, dude. It's so cool that you guys got to do, like, I did illustration as a minor with my degree. And so it was just kind of like the thing sort of like scrunched into the corner. That's so cool that you guys got to do it as your whole entire major. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Now, in terms of artists, who are like your favorite artists?
Oh man, I could go on for days, but won't bore you with that. I love, like, I'm mostly like Instagram, Twitter artists. Like Leah Lexon was probably one of my first inspirations. Sean Furry Little Peach, if you know her, she's an Australian-based illustrator, very like kind of childish, whimsical design and illustration. There's a girl called Forrest Maury. She's in Perth, Australia. Incredible, just like ceramics and illustration. I also have a lot of Posca influences. I have like so many friends in the area, like Aubrey Joy and Volchin, things by Diana, Molly Bernardo. Like, yeah, I just love finding new artists on Instagram and like totally know I'm missing like 20 different people that I could totally list off. But yeah, no, I'm always influenced by like, animal artists, colorful artists is absolutely my go-to.
Yeah, like I got inspired by Hannah Yada. Like Hannah Yada, her work is absolutely amazing. There's another artist called Martin Whitfuth. He does like animals with, works with oil paints, I think. Also I got inspired by like Kirby Rosanes, who I found out about on DeviantArt. Like his work is absolutely incredible. So I found out yeah, so like his work is very, very cool. He's very good at pen and ink, and he's from the Philippines. And another artist I really love is like Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat. And like there's another artist that I really, really like, another artist named Willa Wiggins, who I had a chance to talk over the phone, and he's a micro sculpturist from England. So yeah, like there's
you've got like a great range going, dude. Like send me a list. I would love to just check out some of these people. There's always new artists to find on the internet. It's so much fun.
Yeah, past and present too. So you get a lot you get a lot of inspiration from different artists around the world, especially coming from doing like different mediums and things like that. So it's really cool to see. Now, how could you describe your art style?
I would like, it's always a challenge, but if anything, I would say it's almost like vector influenced. I used to, like when I was in university, like everyone around me hated Illustrator and vectoring. Me, I loved it. I thought it was so cool. Like very, very bold colors, like strong shapes. I thought that was just like the stuff. And so that's kind of followed me a little bit. Even though I'm working with like, Posca pens and like yarn now, basically, it's still a huge influence. So yeah, like vector, bold shapes, bold colors. That's more or less what you'll find from me.
Yeah, like I like seeing how your work is like very, very consistent with the bright colors, and you understand very well with like color palettes. That's really, really cool. And I like how with your work too, you paint them on, you use like different like color blocking blocks that you get like from like the paint store or something like that. And you just like do like drawings based off of that one color, like Pantone colors. I find that to be
Yeah,
very, very cool. So like
totally. Yeah.
mm,
Sorry, I've always found like kind of giving yourself a little constraint has been such a great way to kind of like let creativity just go and do its thing. So
mhm.
yeah, just like using those like individual colors is just like it's a great starting point if you want to kind of get inspired. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing. Have you gotten do you still do like digital illustrations at all, or do you do just traditional mainly?
I'm like a mix of both. If I get a little bored of one, I kind of jump to the other a bit. Like if you kind of scroll through my Instagram feed, you'll see like you'll see I have little phases more or less, but like
Mhm.
the style kind of follows throughout. So yeah, like even if I'm jumping from thing to thing, I'd like to think that the core, like the colors and shapes and the style itself, just it's following me whether I like it or not. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I work with this program called Affinity Designer. So it's like Illustrator. So it's like kind of like a cheaper
Oh,
alternative
really?
to Illustrator, but I've been working with that. And I also bought Illustrator because I used to work with Illustrator during college, but I stopped for a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
while. And so I got to get back to the swing of using Illustrator now for during this whole brand new year. So it's
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with like all the different design programs that are just kind of like floating around in the atmosphere.
mhm.
It's yeah, I don't blame you, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. I used to work with like Photoshop and GIMP. Like GIMP was the whole thing, the whole program.
Oh, it has such a phase.
Yeah. Everybody would do anime on GIMP and things like
Yeah.
that. So it was that's a interesting time years back. So
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of your art business, I want to get into your business, which you sell like prints, pins and patches, different items in
Yeah,
your
for
shop.
sure.
So what made you decide to start your own art business?
Um, I mean, it's always been one of those ideas in the back of my head, like especially going through university, like about 2014 to 2017-ish. That was like
Mm,
when like online artists, you could see like on Instagram, on Twitter, like just really doing their thing and doing it so well. I always looked at that and I was like, that is so cool, totally the dream.
mm,
But, I was still very much within the whole kind of like academic art sphere of like, go to be a graphic designer, go to be like, UX designer, sort of a thing.
mm,
And so, yeah, I graduated and couldn't really find any jobs in that area. Shocker, I know. Um, so I kind of settled, I suppose, for a sort of design job. I was working like pre-press in an industrial printing company.
mm,
Um, so I was like technically like a pre-press artist. People would send us like files and, we'd do the edits and then send it to the printer, more or less. But unfortunately, it wasn't quite the creative work that I was craving. And so after, about a few months of that full time, I started just kind of doing my own stuff, on the evenings, on the weekends,
mm,
and it really organically built from there. It just kind of kept consistent, kept,
mm,
growing my skills, and within about maybe like a year and a half, I would say, I grew enough of a following that kind of, starting to do like the business stuff, because I started making stickers and everything while I was doing that. That started to become a viable option. So
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a slow process, but it was like just the ball like rolling down the hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. Now, what are like some pieces of advice in terms for someone who wants to start their own art business, like how to sell and market their work?
Oh yeah. Great question. I try not to overcomplicate it. There are so many rules you can have on like social media with the algorithm, but honestly, like just consistency and like discipline. Keep keep your work going like on a nice schedule, and that way you can rely on yourself to be your own boss and create work when maybe you don't feel like creating work, because that's kind of the thing that people don't talk about so much when you start your own art business is sometimes you don't feel the inspiration coming on. It
Mhm.
doesn't turn on every day at like 9 a.m. unfortunately. But
Mhm.
if you can kind of just push through that, not in a serious way, you can just draw some silly little like doodles, chuck it up on like Twitter or Instagram,
Mhm.
and that stuff. But if you just find yourself a system that works for you, where you can kind of consistently be creative, then you've got a great foundation, and that's the most important thing, I think, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that with staying creative is time management, and that's something I'm still always working on every day myself. It is managing my time to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm being at least productive like the majority of the week and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and plus doing different things to keep myself busy. So
Mm,
yeah, so that I think time management and like how you said discipline, I do agree is definitely important. And I want to get
yeah.
into in terms of like your whole process in terms of creating art. Like what's your whole process when creating an illustration?
Okay. I mean, usually I'm doing it for myself to kind of like, maybe make into something later.
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, I'll go online and I'll try and find like a good reference photo. I
Mm-hmm.
don't normally draw like straight from the mind, if you know what I mean. I
Mm-hmm.
find having a few like reference photos or a few bits of inspiration is just makes everything so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll find something like that, and then it's basically just like just throw down a sketch, see if that looks good, and from there, just if I'm doing traditional, if I'm doing Posca, ideally I'll do it like right on the Posca paper specifically, like from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually do like transfer stuff. If I'm doing client work, maybe I'll do it in my sketchbook and then transfer it over afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just goofing around with myself, then I'll just draw it straight on the paper and then just do like the base colors, start filling in details, start doing line work, get like the final details, all the little nitpicky stuff, just like nice and clean. And then more or less, that's about from like illustration to final piece. It's about as complicated as it gets here at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's really, really cool. Now, in terms, I want to get into the Posca markers because you work with those a lot. And I just
Yeah,
started
for
getting
sure.
I just got into Posca markers. They're absolutely incredible. I use mainly like black Posca markers like as the main color because I like working with black and white sometimes, but I like working with color too. But if it's with color, it's digital or like I do nail art too, so I'll do like some colorful with some nails and things like that. But like, what is your whole take on Posca markers, and what are tips you could give like for someone who wants to get into using that type of medium?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Posca markers kind of gave me like my start. They're such a beautiful kind of vibrant, very like opaque sort of medium to use. So much fun.
Mhm.
If I had any advice, I think like getting a paper that's like can handle them, because it's a very wet. It's like it's paint, dude. So
Right.
you gotta find yeah, you gotta find good thick sketchbook. I tell people ideally I use 270 GSM paper that has a really smooth finish to it, because
Right.
Posca markers, unfortunately, I say like the main drawback of them is that they will destroy paper. They will eat
Mhm.
it up like no one's business.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure you've found that once in a while.
Yeah, so I find that
Yeah,
very
so
interesting.
yeah, it can be a real struggle for people. So finding that real like a thick smooth paper is a great way to start. Just otherwise, let your paint dry properly before you like add another layer to it. I know some people get really excited and want to just like go at it so quickly, but that can lead to kind of like murky colors. You can kind of rip up the paper because it's still too wet. So just a little patience with that one. Just like shine it in the light, make sure it's like not doesn't feel wet. Then you're good to go. Otherwise, like I work from like base color and then line art and then details.
Mm.
So I find kind of like the bigger blocks of color. If you lay those down first, that's kind of the best workflow that I found with Poscas personally. So
Mm.
yeah, as long as you're doing that, everything else is kind of very specific to individual issues. So yeah, if you follow those, should be good, I reckon.
Yeah, like with Posca, like I use mixed media paper. I never like use like print paper or anything because I know it's like how you said it's paint, it's going to bleed through. So I think also mixed media paper would help very best as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like I have my very specific paper that I found and will like my ride and die. But as long
Mhm.
as it's something that can handle like watercolor or maybe even like wash, something around that, yeah, I think it'll be golden for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, have you ever thought about collaborating with other artists, like whether it's like an illustrator or a nail artist in terms of like the work that you do?
Yeah, honestly, I'd love to. Like I'm really excited about the idea of kind of like the art community that we have online. I like there are so many artists that like I don't talk to heaps, but I touch base with every once in a while, and they're just like such an inspiration. And honestly, I'd love to collab more. It's kind of like you said, the kind of the time management thing
Mm-hmm.
is where I fall over in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if I can manage that, I would love to. I'm doing one or two things in the background with like a friend with a brand. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if I could focus more on that going forward, dude, I would love that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be really cool because I know one artist that I follow named Beverly Silas. Like her work is absolutely incredible. And like,
Yeah.
I see certain nail artists, like I'm within like the beauty industry. So my
Yeah.
focus is doing like nails, nail art. And there's some nail artists that would do like some of her work. And like it's just incredible. It's really, really cool.
It's so inspiring. Just kind of seeing people's different takes on like a similar medium or like a similar thing.
Mhm.
Just it's so fun. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. But I could also see you too, like collaborating with like Posca or something like that, like because you work a lot with that medium. So it'd be cool if you did
Yeah.
something with them.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. My emails are always open to Posca, so if they wanna touch base, I'm here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, 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 most definitely. Now, what is your whole take with the whole progression of art, especially when it comes down to technology?
I think it's nothing but mostly nothing but a good thing. Like I feel like it gives more accessibility to people who maybe wouldn't have a chance to become like artists, express their creativity.
Mm,
So I think more ways to be able to get into the art space
hmm.
is awesome. Nothing but a good thing. It gets a little iffy when like, brands kind of get in there, take a little bit of advantage of, a, a artist that maybe doesn't know what's going on quite as much.
Hmm.
Um, that's when not a fan, but yeah, it comes with the territory, unfortunately. So yeah, most of the time, I think it's pretty great. Traditional, digital, like whatever you want to do, as long as you're creating, I think that's amazing for sure.
Absolutely. Now, you went to university for the arts, and I want to get into that a little bit. So,
But,
what is your whole take in terms of like going to art university, and what are some pieces of advice would you give for someone who wants to get into the arts to attend like art school, or do they have to go to art school to be an artist? Like, what's your whole take on that?
oh, that's a very chunky one for sure. So personally, I went to design school, which I think is a little bit different from like art school, if you will. It's like it's more kind of it pushes more towards like branding, like graphic design, website design, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like with the end goal of like you're working as a graphic designer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, art school, I've heard, I've heard through the grapevine, it's much more kind of like you're working with traditional mediums, you're kind of doing a bit more art history,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing like hitting a little bit more of the creative side as well,
Mm-hmm.
which I think can be great for artists who maybe don't have the internal kind of like drive and discipline to kind of like self-start their own projects.
Mm-hmm.
Because I found I was very motivated by like academic results. Like I wanted that higher grade and I was like gunning for it. So I was making good work. And from that, I kind of, I learned a lot of skills. So I personally don't regret going to like, to art school, design school. But I mean, I've also heard people say it's kind of, a bit of a waste of time if you don't kind of network, it can fall flat once you leave.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you kind of have to take. I think art school can be great. But I think you need to take a lot of initiative personally to like get the most out of it. You kind of need to make your own connections. You kind of really need to put in the work with your assignments, with your project, to really kind of get out what they're trying to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that a lot of people that go to art school and design school don't work incredibly hard, because oh my god, they do. I saw it, I saw it front and center. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you kind of really need to think it through. So yeah, it's complicated, I suppose. Unfortunately, it can be a great thing. It can be a waste of time. It's very much up to your own. You got to really take responsibility for your own time and what you do in there, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Like not only work on your projects, but also connecting with other people. And even if you don't go to art
Mhm.
school, you still have to do that, and plus I think with art school
Yeah,
too, it helps you figure out what you like in art, like what you want to do. And I think I
100%.
could recommend partially of going to art school just because, there's so many choices that you have and what you want to venture
Yeah,
into. Like, because some people don't know within their first year of what they want to specifically do in terms of art. So that's the
yeah.
thing. So I think with just art school in
Mm.
itself, it helps you find your own style.
Yeah, it really helps you kind of just like find your niche. Like when I started at university, I was an industrial design student, because
Mm-hmm.
like I like initially I like the idea of like toy design, kind of creating like soft toys and that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And only through going that avenue, I realized kind of wasn't for me in the way that they presented it, at least. And wouldn't know that if I didn't try it. You know what I mean? I feel like as long as you're doing something, then you're making progress. If you just kind of like stand there, like nothing's gonna happen. So as long as you try something, I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, some progress is better than no progress. So, and plus
Yeah,
you don't know if you don't try. So that's the thing. It's better to
yeah,
try than not try at all. So
yeah. That's it. That's the one.
that's the entire thing with that. Now, how would you define success?
Uh, that's a like great question. Um, it's very internally motivated. I think a lot of people look at different metrics for how they're successful. I mean, you could be like financially successful. You could be successful as far as being creatively fulfilled, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're financially like a full-time artist, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Success in my own personal metrics, I would say, is financially motivated. I am a full-time artist, so I am trying to make this work in a business sense as well.
Right.
um but I think at the end of the day, kind of like if you boil it down to like its absolute core, it's just kind of being happy with what you're doing like on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as you're kind of hitting that one metric, everything else, it's like it's good, but I would say that's the most important thing at the end of the day, personally.
Absolutely. Now, I want to get into the financial part of it. So, how important is it in terms of pricing and understanding an artist's value?
It is like, it's vital if you want to be able to run a sustainable business in like a creative field. You got to be able to price, like you got to be able to price yourself sustainably so you can, you know, continue to do what you want to do. For sure, it's something that I would say I still personally struggle with a little bit, even though this is my full-time job. You don't really have, you know, like a price gauge to
Mm-hmm.
figure things out. So I found that, you know, kind of just trying it out, like trying to see if you have a price in mind that might be a little bit, you know, a little bit daunting to yourself personally.
Mm-hmm.
Just try it out. You can always lower it a little bit later on, but if you get that in the initial stage, then you're you know, you're sustainable, and that's the most important part. So yeah, I think it's truly vital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I most definitely agree too, because you have to take in consideration the time that you put into with the work of art, but also to the materials you use and things of that nature. So I think that's something you have to take into account in terms of how to price. And even with me, I can relate to you too, because I'm trying to figure out and trying to, you know, understand how to price things better, you know, and I think that's very, very vital as well. So I most definitely agree.
Yeah, it's the constant struggle. Like I've been meticulously timing like my latest kind of frame of like little punch needle works,
Mm-hmm.
just to get a better kind of reference point on how to price this kind of stuff. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just honestly, just having like a stopwatch, a little timer to figure out how many hours you're putting into this thing that you're enjoying, it helps. It helps a lot. It's a small thing, but so handy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like your punch needle stuff. What got you into punch needle like rugs and things like that?
I was spending a lot of time on TikTok, I believe, and I see a lot of artists on TikTok, and then I think naturally through that, like the algorithm just started throwing a few punch needle artists at me and a few like rug tufting, like with like the proper like rug tufting gun.
Mm-hmm.
It was throwing a lot of that, and I was just eating that up, and like I just kept seeing more and more and more, and I just got more and more interested to the point where I was like, yep, I'm gonna give it a try. I don't know if I'm gonna be good at it. I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but I really wanted to give it a go. So like I got kind of like a little bit of tax money back, bless the tax money, and my kind of like my treat to myself
Mm-hmm.
was getting the supplies for that. Um, yeah, it turned out well, I would say. Turned out pretty good so far.
Oh, that's really, really cool. Yeah, the punch needle work is really, really adorable. I like the little punch needle crocodiles and the bears you do. Like it's really, really cute.
Yeah, no, I'm working really hard on like the next batch at the moment. It's really kind of like this is the trial run of like, okay, how far can I like push it with my time and my effort? You know what I mean?
Mm,
It goes on the thing whole sustainability of like, can I do this like long term? It's
mm,
been really interesting. But I'm so like grateful that a lot of people have seemed to really enjoy them,
mm.
because I really enjoy the process. So like it's good back and forth as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, last but not least, like how do you balance work and daily life?
It is a constant struggle. I'll give you that right now. I like obviously I need to be able to sustain myself financially. So I do try to be like as responsible as I can with kind of like my time
Mm,
and how I work. So I am more or less like Monday to Friday, like full time. We'll hit like a weekend or two if I need to as well. But I do, whenever possible, try to set boundaries on what is like, you know, like no work time. Because my studio is in my house. So it can be
mm,
very easy to just kind of like just stay in here like, you know, all day and just create because it's fun. It's what I love to do.
mm,
But I found that even if it's fun, it is what I love to do. If maintaining those boundaries of like, this is the time that I stop, this is the time that I rest, and just using that time to kind of like, you know, not focus on art or anything, just chat, like hang out with friends, enjoy other hobbies. That's a great balance for me personally. So it's
Mhm.
what I try to do. I don't always achieve it, unfortunately, but you know,
Mhm.
as long as we strive for it, yeah, it's the best you can do. And so far it's been pretty good.
Hmm. Yeah, like I'm still trying to find that balance too, and I think that goes with the time management thing because you got to figure out how to balance like working on art and doing like things to occupy your time besides doing art, like whether it's some
Yeah.
entertaining and different things like that. So, and also too, like I think mental health plays a part with it too, because what you
Yeah.
don't want to do is overwork yourself, because if you do,
Yeah.
you could easily burn yourself out.
Yeah. I've been there before, unfortunately. And like I was lucky enough to be able to take a little bit of like once I realized that, just took like a week or two off and just really focused on like resting because that's a huge part of the creative process as well. You gotta give yourself appropriate time to rest. Otherwise, your brain's just kind of like a dry sponge. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like just nothing's coming out of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a constant struggle. Sometimes I do great, sometimes I don't do too great, but as long as you're kind of looking at your process and kind of like just making those little changes to make things more kind of like time efficient
Hmm.
and pricing yourself properly, and yeah, as long as you're just kind of constantly trying to improve,
Hmm.
you should be good. Fingers crossed, you should be good.
Hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that because, like, you got to take care of yourself first. That's how you maintain your work ethic and maintain productivity, especially being creative. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's also too like how some people say on social media, like you don't have to be creative all the time, or you don't have to create all the time. So sometimes you do have to
Mm-hmm.
give yourself a little bit of that leg room of like in terms of just time to yourself and rest and do other things, like, how you said before. So that I believe that's very, very important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, just giving yourself that little bit of space and distance away from being an artist or like being a creative person is just as important as creating in and of itself. Because like, you don't want to build up your personal identity by solely being an artist and solely being creative. Because like you may burn out. You may just not feel inspired. Happens to all of us, absolutely. But
Right.
if you build your personal perception purely on that, once you hit that inevitable burnout, then it becomes like a crisis of like self, you know what I mean? And that's no
Yeah.
fun for anyone. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, you absolutely don't. Like I said, it all boils down to just maintaining yourself and with who you are and things like that. And continuously putting
Mhm.
your work out there. And
Yeah.
especially with some of us who have an art business or who have a business selling like different products, maybe like press on nails or t-shirts with our artwork on it, or whatever product it is. And I think it's another thing too is to not be discouraged if you don't make a sale, right away. And sometimes it takes a
Mm,
lot of time to make a sale as well. So, it may take
absolutely.
time also too for people to gravitate to your work. And that's what I'm, learning as well. Like it takes time for people to understand and gravitate to your style of work. It's not that people don't like it. It's not that,
Yeah.
it's not your best work. It just takes time to get people used to and acclimated to your work and what you do.
Yeah, I absolutely couldn't agree more. Like I said before, I was working about like a year and a half on my like my art, my social media, etc. before I kind of had the inkling that this could be like a viable thing for me to jump into. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if I kind of looked at my art maybe like 7 months into it, and like I only had a few hundred followers, and like I got discouraged from that, then like wouldn't be here today, I can tell you that much. So it's yeah, like as important as social media and kind of like putting yourself out there and growing your business, as important as that is, it's like it's not the be all end all. You really kind of just don't take it that seriously, if
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean.
Right.
At the end of the day, you and your own personal mental health is by and large the most important thing as a creative, as a sole business owner as well. So you got to take care of yourself before literally anything else. Don't feel guilty about it. It's something that everyone needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more because really mental health is
Mm,
very, very important. And, you know, and I like how with our generation, we're talking more about it now because, you know, we're talking about it's okay to seek professional help. It's okay to talk to somebody if you're
yeah.
going through something, you know, and it's okay to just take a break, like how we say, like from creating for a while to really, you know, take care of yourself before getting back into it. So that's the thing that
Mm.
I can definitely agree with.
Yeah, it's something that everyone kind of needs to like hits and struggles with, I feel like, at one point in their life.
Mhm.
But to be able to just kind of like just be kind and gentle to yourself in that way, it'll give you so much back. It'll give you everything. So yeah, I just hope people get that at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, last but not least, where can
Yeah.
people find you on social media and how can people support your work?
Oh gosh. Basically any social media you want to find me on, my handle is Gremren, Gremren. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook technically, I'm definitely on Etsy. Um, I basically have a little like link in all of my socials that will like give you the extended rundown.
Mm,
But yeah, that's where you can find me. That's where I'm most active. I'm also really trying to like push my Patreon this year, so I'm gonna be
mhm.
way more active on that. You can find me there. Otherwise, yeah, just find me, say hi. I truly don't bite, and I'm always happy for a chat if I have time. So yeah, happy to have you guys around.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Renata, for jumping onto the show. Your work is absolutely incredible, and I love how you use bright colors. And you know, it's just your work is just absolutely really really cool. Just keep up the great work, and thank you so much for having you. Thank you so much for jumping onto the show.
It's been like such a pleasure. Thank you so much for asking, and this has been like so much fun. Really, I appreciate it, Aisha. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome. Well, take care.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye bye. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and visit my website, asiaticbird.com, and be on the lookout for more interviews to come very soon. Take care and stay beautiful.